We have the dean and 3 players, one of whom was directly in the path of some tornadic activity, knocked out his internet, but we'll limp along as best we can with other technological advances and wondrous capabilities that we might possess, such as Discord and video/audio calling. So, very good. It is good to see my friends. We've had, some sicknesses and other stuff going on. It's all good, though. Holidays are almost upon us. Looking at my last suite of recordings, it was session 18, so could it possibly be that tonight we are 19 sessions into our resuscitated, resurrected East Texas University using the Savage Worlds rule set? As usually I am wont to do, throw some shout outs. Shane Hensley and Clint Black, Savage Worlds is your baby. This rule set is fast, furious, and fun. I'm not sure which one of those I would rank upon the other because they're all true. Maybe fun. I think I'll put fun half a nose ahead of fast and furious. East Texas University is the genre, is the setting placed upon the Savage Worlds rule set. East Texas University brought to us by Preston DeBose and Ed Wetterman. Thank you, gentlemen. East Texas University is a fictitious college that is based near the Big Thicket, which is this large swampy area, heavily treed, that separates eastern Texas from western Louisiana. Duff, who owns, manages, runs his suite of Prater's Rejects channels. Thank you for hosting our games on your YouTube channel. We all see Duff fairly often. He has something going on in his channel almost every day of the week. I would say he's either running, playing, planning to run, hosting a one-shot with his set of very able dungeon masters and deans and game masters, running some short games, some very long-lived games as well. I earnestly entreat, as I'm also often want to do. If you're interested, go over to the Prater's Reject channel. You can find them on Switch. You can find hundreds of videos on YouTube. Give them a watch. Everything from Kids on Bikes to Aliens. Wouldn't surprise me if there was a Call of Cthulhu campaign. Some one-shots from what was I viewing most recently. I think it was Sunless Citadel. That was rewritten for 5e. And Savage Worlds, of course. Corey, my friend, you ran this game, East Texas University, a couple of years ago, and took us as players through freshman year and left just such a good taste in our mouth that when it came time to decide what are we going to do next, we don't get to see each other as often as we would like. I said, I'm going to buy the rule set. I'm going to buy Savage Worlds Suede, the Savage Worlds Adventurers Deluxe Edition. I think I got that right. Buried Tales, a couple stories about Pinebox, Texas. One of the adventures, Class Ring, some other Pinebox Savage Tales that are available. I'm running a game out of that right now as well. That's one of our many threads. Got the East Texas University setting. Degrees of Horror is the established and well-known plot point campaign. Takes these good students from freshman year all the way up to graduation day, and all sorts of other just modules you can download, purchase for a song off the 10 to midnight website, where Pinebox came into existence before the East Texas University setting. And there are just a fair number of adventures that are all just a fun read. And the latest addition to my little collection would be your East Texas University Studies Abroad, which is a suite of adventures set in Costa Rica, Poland, Great Britain, and Italy, I believe. So one of these semesters, our students may pack up their duffel bags, purchase some foreign language study materials, and happily head overseas. As far as the artwork goes, Nightsteed, your back of the napkin sketches amuse me. Amai, your artwork amazes me. The artwork from our Ren Fair extravaganza just started pouring in even before the game session was over. I was receiving Discord messages and little sketches and hijinks and shenanigans that were going on during that last 4-hour session. So thank you. I don't want to call it a vicious cycle. That's not the phrase I'm looking for. I will call it a self-propagating inference engine, where my excitement to run this game is returned tenfold by the players and their excitement wanting to get together. When's the next session? And that indeed feeds my enthusiasm almost like a force multiplier. And that's really an enviable position to be in, where we just get together, laugh, have fun, shenanigans, bounce jokes off one another. Some of the jokes just write themselves. Some of the others are just on a slow burn throughout the course of this campaign. So it's all good. Let me check OBS. OBS seems to be OBSing. We've got Shep with a little placeholder icon. Keep all of our little video imagery spliced and diced nicely. Although we can't see him, certainly we can hear him. Also, the final shout out would be to Phil Cho. Phil Cho is either his name or a person's name or just an online persona. Lots of art that I linked through the Pinterest site over to DeviantArt. And as soon as I started seeing Phil Cho's offerings on the DeviantArt website, I was like, I've got to grab some of these. These are perfect for East Texas University. These are pretty much your superheroes in their human guise, sort of their cover AKAs, like a Clark Kent maybe, or a Peter Parker, as a college student or a high school student, and really the clean lines and the sort of the inspired stances and the colors just dovetail so nicely with what I was looking for, where I'm like, Sophia's got a possible love interest Sophia might have that lives next door, and his name is Lenny Gruber. And I need a tall, athletic-looking blonde guy. I was not disappointed as I was able to get my hands on one of those guys just within moments. Of course, it took me a little bit longer to get the guy in the Renaissance costume, but yeah, that's a story best left for another day. So we have reached the end of the first semester, the fall semester of our sophomore year. We have had 5 advances. You get 4 a year, but I don't think we count the first part of freshman year as an advance. That's simply you're playing the results of your character creation. So we would have had 3 in freshman year and 2 so far in sophomore year. So we should have had 5 advances so far. And let's just go and dig back in the sort of the dim, dusty, cobwebbed recesses of our memories and try to determine just what all went on last game. And not only what occurred during the lion's share of that 4-hour-ish session, but also, as I like to do towards the end of that session, I just started hammering these poor players with plot points and developments and sidebars and unexplained phenomena, riddles, stories, people that have popped in that they haven't seen in a goodly amount of time, just as my way to remind them that, hey, You know, I'm an NPC, but I'm still here. As the semester, as the year, as the seasons progress, all of these individuals have lives and continue to grow or stagnate. Stagnate. It's really their choice on their own outside of the day-to-day flux of adventures that these good students, the study group, experiences. So, if anyone would like to pop up with just a little bit of background from what went on in the last, two-ish sessions, I'm all ears, and I'll try to fill in the blanks that are left hither and yon as we sort of part and parcel up and get this group back on the course. So, in no order, who'd like to offer up something?
Mm,
Sounds like
I
a
remember.
sounds like an Ava.
What was it? Yes. I remember from the session before the last when we uh, helped pour Frederick out to get his clothes back from the fraternity house because he was bullied, the poor thing. We helped get his clothes back, and then he explained to us the strange phenomenon that happened with his D&D group and his character sheet and how his barbarian came to life and basically joined the frat house.
Like-minded individuals.
Barbarian Kevin.
That's right.
Yeah, and what was it? We went to we dropped him off at the house where they were having D&D so that he can get the character sheet for us. And then that's when we saw the group and the other guy that he was clashing with because they were having party conflicts because his other friend played an elf. And
Mm-hmm.
then later on we saw that the elf also came out, right, in the campus because Ava saw him feeding squirrels. And he had these really bright eyes. And it's like, that's kind of weird. And
Indeed.
we approached him. That was after our midterms. And I think poor Ship was the one that had a really bad day with midterms. And so he wasn't with us when we met the elf man. And
Iron Drawer the Elf.
yeah, and he explained to us that him and his friend, which was his creator, were going to go to the Renaissance Fair. And that's when we ended up also, since the Renaissance Fair was coming, we ended up going there all together with,
Yes, indeed.
yeah, all of us went together because I remember Erica was dressed up as a satyr. That was
Mm-hmm.
adorable.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of us also went in costume because it was free to get in if you were in costume.
That's right.
And there was a bunch of frat boys trying to get in with like trash bags.
Yeah.
Didn't work. But
Trying
we
to
did
dress
meet
up
up
like
with a bunch of
Highlander.
NPCs. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a nice callback to all the NPCs that we ran into throughout our time playing.
That's right.
And we also ran into Kevin. We had to take away a weapon from him on the dance floor. that was that was an adventure in itself, as half of us are not only noodly armed in strength, but also have noodle feet in dancing.
Yes. Agreeably, there was a lot going on that dance floor. So.
There was so much going on that dance floor, but it was a good time. And we managed to get his weapon away. Um, and then we found the elf on the other side. And then eventually they clashed out in a fight together. And when that was going on, we found out that in one of the tents, the group was playing D&D, but they were fighting. And we convinced them to try and get along before these characters of theirs destroyed themselves and any other casualties in the Renaissance Fair. So I think it
Well
was
played.
Shep and uh, Sophia who did a really good job persuading them to get along.
Well played. Well played.
And then they disappeared after that
They did.
uh,
And the
because they
crowd.
finally got along and were having a good time with D&D.
The crowd wondered. They didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, it, in one or two sentences, I would describe Pine Box as sort of the nexus, an overlap of a bunch of different effects, magical in nature, the mythos, the rich mythology coming up from Mexico, the Aztec and the Mayan civilizations, the blood sacrifices, the strange, I don't know how you pronounce it, coatl,
Oh,
the winged
like
feathered serpents.
is oh my god, what's it called? I think it's Quetzalcoatl.
Ketelon Khan or something.
Quetzalcoatl, I think is
Yeah.
how it's pronounced, but I could be wrong.
So we have all that coming up, and the Chupacabras, of course, coming up from the south. We've got the rich Native American, the American Indian heritage, their folklore, the very rich set of deities and chaotic and tricky beings, and sort of that oneness with the land. And let's not forget what has trickled up from the Caribbean, from Jamaica, through New Orleans, and into this area, that very rich mythology of like the voodoo cults and the occult, incantations and the juju zombies and all of that. So you're in sort of an area where ley lines cross. You can imagine it's an area of immense power, and that is partially how you would explain the fact that why is the sleepy little town of Pine Box, Texas, seem to be the focus of so many strange supernatural occurrences? Well, indeed, it is because of that nexus, that crossing of lines of power. That it's almost like a force multiplier, like a lens that expands and amplifies all these strange goings on. So, very good. Shep or Sophia, would either of you like to toss your sort of hat into the ring and explain some of the stuff that happened recently?
I think Ava pretty much covered all
Yeah.
of it.
Okay.
except for the amazing dancing routine
Ah,
that Sophia pulled
That's
up.
right.
I forgot. I danced good.
Sophia did put on a really good
Hmm.
dancing performance with the neighbor. They
Yep.
exchanged numbers, and
Yeah.
they're such a sweet pair.
Well, we at least one of them has. We know they're sweet cheeks. We don't know anything else about them.
Always with the cheeks.
The sweetest of cheeks, I'm sure.
I'm not
Right.
sure Sophia ever got to see them
No,
though.
no.
No,
I
Failed
almost didn't
notice
even
roll
notice
after
Letty
notice roll.
there.
I know.
My
And
notice rolls were terrible. I almost went another whole game not noticing him.
and and whenever he would like take his leave of you and thank you for the dance, or tell you that he was going to go, say hello to a friend, or maybe purchase one of those big 2 pound turkey legs, he made it a point to back away from you
Mhm.
most
That's
times,
true.
because
That
that schmedium outfit he was wearing was a little short in the back, and try as he might,
So,
he could not hike it down.
he's a
I
little
Um,
like
too
to
tall for it.
say. I like to think that Shep had his little Polaroid camera, and that's where that picture that I drew came from.
oh
Yes.
yeah,
I love it.
Oh man.
there might have been a little bit of a
Glorious.
draft, but just in okay, and Shep
And
and
then
Sophia, pipe in if you like. Shep, you have something to add?
well, I was going to say Erica did some dancing, just about got punched out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, yes.
That's right. That's right.
I, I
Heaven was
honestly
agitated.
thought she was going to take out the barbarian on her own, but
Right.
She would have been a pretty decent match for him.
Yeah.
Although
I'd imagine so.
he is
Uh.
he had a lot of edges
Oh.
that would have helped him.
Shep getting hit on by the high schooler.
Ah, yes,
mhm.
That
Darlene.
was hilarious.
Hey, darling.
Hey, darling. uh,
Er-
Erica coming in for the save.
Yeah.
It would have been a shame to see that poor girl humiliate herself when somebody a little older and a little wiser like myself could just step in and defray that bomb before it detonates. If y'all understand what I'm saying.
Mhm.
You
And
know.
of course, Shep and Ava have agreed to be hand holders.
Yes.
They have agreed to be hand holders.
Hand
Yeah.
holders.
It only
They are indeed hand holders now,
Hmm
because they're nerdy like that.
took the gentlest nudge in that direction, um, which is good. Sometimes things
Very
unfold
true.
very in a manner that just makes
Well, we
sense.
can't all be love at first sight, like Sophia and Sweet
He did
Cheeks.
buy.
Yeah.
He did buy her a rose too.
I don't know if I call it
Hmm
love.
Yeah. As Erica would probably
I
say.
spent many games forgetting he was around.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is true.
As Erica would have said, "Yeah, sure. I believe in love at first sight, darlings. It happens to me all the time. Until the guy opens up his mouth. That ends it. That usually ends it for me. You've met some
That's
old
funny.
friends. As I've mentioned, these NPCs continue to develop and grow on their own. Brittany Poe, the young woman at the pizza bar and waitress that you helped out and helped to determine the cause of her Mima Lucille, her odd behavior. You recognize Brittany Poe. She came up and said hello, and in fact, that
Yes.
although her Mima sadly has passed on to her great reward, left her a little bit of cha-ching that she was able to invest in a semester at East Texas University. Brittany looks forward to seeing you on campus. I believe
Yay.
that you've
New
um
friends.
you've offered to sort of hook up with her and walk her around the campus and maybe give her a little bit of guidance. You're going to take your first semester of philosophy. Don't take this gal here. She's really tough and pretty demanding, and as soon as you say, well, I'm a non-major, so I'm just taking this as whatever else, an elective, that will earn her wrath and ire. But take this guy and try to steer clear of taking staff when you can, because that's sort of a luck of the draw who you might get. You saw the cashier at Chartoon's sort of secondhand food store, the gal who had to pick up all the boxes of Lucky Charms that one night.
Yep.
They were assaulting
Those
two
weird
of you.
ones.
Brett and Cody, also from the adventure with Brittany Poe, the two young guys that work at a company for a company where they do like some restoration work, hauling away old ratty carpeting, installing new carpeting and doing some restoration work, some flood damage, the sort of the shop vac water cleaner that'll dry up a place and set up some big fans and do some painting and some remodeling and some external repair work. You ran into, of course, Blake, Darlene's friend. He's in high school. You also ran into his older brother, Benny. Benny is a park ranger at the Big Thicket. He's pretty much your go-to guy for getting a couple of canoes to go through some of the area of the Big Thicket. And, although it's a dangerous place, right? Poisonous insects abound, as do reptiles. Wild feral boar hunt the area. Not too many bear left, sadly, but certainly some of the big cats um, that will notice you as you float by. And if they're feeling a little bit plucky, who knows? You might find yourself, face to face with one of them. Poisonous plants abound, of course. everything from small to moderate-sized Venus flytraps to your various poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac, some stuff like that, certainly. Saw Candy and Hank from the hospital. They're friends of Erica. Candy works reception where people come in and get admitted, and Hank is sort of a retired, maybe a veteran of the Korean War, or the Vietnamese War, who's sort of provides security services. Of course, you saw Lenny, the neighbor, and he had a good time. I think he especially enjoyed the fireworks display that Paul Vanderhorn had managed to put on at the end of the day, but at the beginning of the night, as the live band was getting ready to play. He did enjoy a few close moments with Sophia. Of course, you saw Lisa Gray early on with Matthew and Marissa, her son and daughter, and they adopted a sort of an Australian shepherd / spaniel named Cooper. So they're the proud owners of a stray, and in fact, they managed to adopt out, did the ASPCA up from Lufkin, which is almost due west, about an hour. They adopted a number in the high 20s or the low 30s of all the puppies that they had brought, all the way down to the very last one that was adopted. And the gentleman that adopted that puppy was still present at the time that they announced $6,722 in funds were raised for the greater ASPCA. Good works these folks do, and the various Pinebox business owners, the members of the APBO, Association of Pinebox Business Owners, as well as one or two representatives of the Pinebox Better Business Bureau. And that includes the gentleman, Jim McMurray, who owns an auto repair garage and body shop. And later it was determined that Shep's truck was fixed, and the bill for that repair zeroed out. Well, the gentleman that owns that body shop was indeed there, drumming up business. His catchphrase that you hear on all the local radio and TV stations, "Bring me your dings," and always has a crew of good mechanics standing by. You saw Jason Hess, who owns and operates the Brazen Hussy Brewery, blonde ales, red, rich amber ales, and of course your dark ales, which he calls the brunette, and much in the fashion of, say, a St. Pauli girl beer label. The three scantily clad, sort of Texas outfitted young ladies do grace the beer bottles labels of the beers that he puts out locally, distributes locally. Some other shaker and movers. Gregory Dale, the old guy that purchased the Grand Pinebox Cinema and reupholstered all the seats, put a new shine on all the brass handrails, and is trying to make a go of bringing back the old theater, that old feel, from the 20s and the 30s, when going to the theater was an event. You would dress up and go and perhaps escape a little bit from the war and the depression and the stock market crash of those particular eras, and just escape for just a couple of hours and go see one of your favorite actors or actresses starring in their latest role, be it a romance, be it a western, be it a historically based movie. So yeah, Gregory Dale was there, drumming up business for his new movie theater. They're going to show, the very first movie was The Wizard of Oz back in 1938. So to reopen the theater, that is the movie that they've chosen to show. Just looking over my list here, I think that just about does it. You saw Jennifer Chapman, the woman, the sort of raven-haired beauty represented in several of the paintings and photographs in Mance's house. Mance, who ended up, it was discovered, was a Nazi war criminal, a doctor who experimented on many of the Jews and other gypsies and unfortunate prisoners during the Holocaust. She was his sort of gal about town, pictured in events, political events, fundraisers, on the steps of the Capitol, out fishing off the coast of Florida, probably. She's nowhere near as svelte and attractive and young as she was in some of those pictures. Some of those pictures and portraits aren't that old, if just a tiny march of years, if that. So it looks like the last several months to a year haven't been very good to her, as she has started to show just that bit of effective aging. Also met Sarah Tinsley, another lawyer, a friend of Lisa Gray. She's the one that presented the check to the ASPCA. Of course, it was one of those big cardboard checks, sort of like you would see on the commercial for like one of the big magazine giveaways or whatever the heck, the people that show up and knock on your door with balloons and this big cardboard. They did the order too, with the name and the $6,700 odd amount filled out. It was a success overall. Any way you cut it, slice it, dice it, it was a success. The Lufkin ASPCA loves returning from such events with nothing but empty cages in the back of the trucks and vans as they return back to the town, small city, from which they set out early in the morning, quite a long day. You have a book in and amongst yourselves. It's called Creighton's Compendium. It is penned in the very odd penmanship of one Crayton White, one of the original Pinebox protectors. Looks like it might have some rituals in it. I believe Shep said that he was interested in taking it with him over winter break.
Yeah.
Trying to read, categorize, organize in some way, shape, manner, or form all of the offerings of this odd book. Part journal, part diary. You could think of some of it akin to perhaps the Indiana Jones, the Sean Connery father, his diary. That's just a hodgepodge of riddles, little sketches, maps, odd symbology, this, that, and the other. So certainly in the possession of one Creighton's Compendium. Also, you had sort of pushed upon you by Irondrar the elf, who felt a strange kinship to at least two of you, to the two ladies. Perhaps not so much to Shep. Didn't have much of a chance to interact with you, in truth.
Yeah, but he gave me the satchel for some reason.
You were right next to him, and you were the first person he saw, and did push upon you a small leather, about the size of an average woman's purse, made of leather, stitched together, and in it was like a little round lens, almost like from a microscope or a telescope. If you screwed off the little lens that your eye goes up against, maybe, or perhaps the lens at the other far end of these two devices. Kind of a nice, solid brass ring with a clear glass lens in the middle. And you may recall that you did see the elf, Irondrar, activate that during his battle with the barbarian, cleverly named Kevin the Barbarian. It also had a heavy crystal decanter, a potion vial. Certain aspects of it were kind of jug-like, as it did have that little finger ring on the neck that you would sort of put your finger in to carry it. It was also wrapped with a band going in each direction of stout leather, just to give you something to grip to it. If it was damp, it would probably be a little bit slippery. And it is quite heavy for what it is. Sort of if you would think of it as being like a lead crystal, bulbous bottomed, thin necked potion vial. Sort of a pale azure material inside. Seems to be a liquid, thick and viscous, with a nice pale glow to it. Looks like it's stoppered. There's a little bit of gold filigree or gold flake that surrounds the seam of where the cork pops into the neck of the bottle. And there are 3 striations, making it appear almost like a graduated cylinder. 3, although they're not spaced evenly, much like that electronic coffee maker that counts off 1 cup, 2 cup, all the way up to 12 cups. It's kind of a little wider at the base, so that striation would be more narrow than the one above it and the one above it. So it seems to be demarcated, if you will, into 4 equivalent dosages, sort of, if in a manner of thinking. These were the 2 things that the elf iron drawer pushed at you as he felt that his time was coming to a close, and he felt drawn, as did Kevin the Barbarian, back into the adventure, into the imaginations of Kenneth Manning, the DM, and Jody Stone, his girlfriend, and of course Alan Love, who played the cleric and was trying to get everyone to just sort of bury the hatchet, so to speak, and just get along. And of course, Frederick Doyle played the barbarian. And help me with the name, maybe. Sure, Marcus Cannon. Marcus Cannon.
It's always the Marcus.
Marcus and Frederick. Marcus and Frederick are those two players at the gaming table that are always trying to one up one another. Always come up with that little bitter zinger, whether it's personal or in game. But as it turned out, always for the best, because they seem to be getting along fairly well at the end, to the delight of the guy running the game, Kenneth Manning, who, by his own admission, he put a lot of work into this game, and he wanted to see it through to its fruition. And it's a good adventure, and he put a lot of thought, planning, design into it. And why can't you guys just play the game instead of, sort of poking each other like the bear poking the hornet's nest, and so on and so forth, so to speak. So that's where we pick up. I'm going to let's see, bring up here.
I did want to say one other thing.
Absolutely.
I don't think I mentioned. At some point, I know me and Ava were approached by a guy that found what's her face, the chick that jumped through the window when we were in the science building.
Why, yes.
Lilly Boatwright's.
Poor Lily.
Him and his girlfriend had found her and found something feeding on her.
No, it helped her. Someone helped her when she was out on the floor, because she would have definitely not have made it, I think, otherwise. When someone approached when we were registering for the following semester,
Yes.
I think it was, he was like, "Hey, I know that you guys do like this weird stuff with like superstition and blah 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 blah," and he's like, "I wanted to tell you that we saw this, but don't tell my girlfriend because she didn't want us to say anything."
Yeah. I just remember they saw the bat creature, or
I think it was like some kind of
what?
Mothman type of creature.
Yeah.
Yep. That was good for a Benny. Night Steed.
Nice job,
Thank you.
because that completely slipped my mind too.
You were in line registering for classes, and a young man came up, and he wished to remain anonymous, although 2 of you more eagle-eyed, observant
Mhm.
people saw on either his Herman Hollerith punch card with his registration information. His name is Marvin Shell. Although he wished to remain anonymous, and he told you basically, his girlfriend isn't convinced what they saw. She thinks it was their imagination. She thinks it was their imagination running wild and all of um, the chemicals coursing through their body as they did see this girl land unceremoniously. And they probably heard her femur snap in such a manner that the bone didn't break cleanly, but it fractured in a manner that caused part of the bone to extrude from her leg. Of course, the femoral artery is right in that area, and the opportunity to bleed out is appreciable. Um, they came upon what he described as what he thought was a man in a khaki um, business coat, like a trench coat, but it turned out to be leathery and veined. And this being was face to face with Lilly as she laid there, bleeding, sobbing, and did turn around and espy the two, this Marvin Shell and his girlfriend, and looked like had the face sort of a bat, but it like a cyclops. It had one eye right in the middle of its face, and a wicked, cruel, leering mouth with many small, sharp, pointed teeth. It almost, by the way he described it, it sort of half ran, half fluttered up the Robert E. Lee Engineering and Applied Sciences building, and then went around the corner, around the back of it. Probably fluttered away under the guise of, under the darkness, under the shadows,
Mhm.
somewhere where it wasn't directly beneath one of the lights that illuminates the various walking paths that lead from classroom to classroom building and classroom building across campus to the dormitories, from the dormitories back to the classrooms, up to the student center, to the student union, to the ETU president's mansion, a quite lovely sort of turn of the century. What's the word, with the big swooping columns during the like a plantation mansion, tall,
Mhm.
beautiful windows, and of course, usually depending on what team is playing and what the season is, ETU Ravens Head flag, uh, celebrating wins and commemorating upcoming games and events and whatnot. So there are street lamps everywhere. Um, there are call boxes on campus. It is well known that any time, 24 hours a day or night, you can call and a volunteer will escort you, no questions asked, from point A on campus to point B on campus, just to keep you safe. Whether you're walking, studying late and need somebody to escort you to your vehicle, or from a classroom to the student union, perhaps to see one of the doctors that are on duty to maybe prescribe some pain relief, headache relief, or something like that, and anything that you can imagine, no questions asked. And in fact, it is well known that several members of the ROTC uh, gained good graces of the local commandant and some extra credits by volunteering in this fashion. Good way to keep everybody safe. So Marvin Shell
Nice
did tell you
perks.
about that, and he
Yep.
and his girlfriend, who he did not name, did affix a makeshift tourniquet of their belts to try to, although they weren't going to try to reset that. What's the word when a bone breaks? I think the word is fracture that I'm looking for. But
Mhm.
when it breaks
Mm.
in such a manner that it's not a clean split, but rather an angular
Kind
split where little pieces of bone could break off and make their way up through the bloodstream and block an artery or some such. So
yeah.
they did perform what best they could. I think it was it was the African American gentleman, the professor, that came around the corner and did also provide aid at that time to poor Lilly
Oh
Boatwright.
yeah.
And you have the book that she had carried. Um,
Yeah, we haven't messed with it much. It was kind of scary that they
Hmm.
got possessed. We're like, I don't know if this book is gonna possess us or not.
I think there'll be
And
possession.
and you
I
also
hope not.
It'll be
uh,
fine.
oh, it'll be fine.
yeah,
What what could
Shep,
happen?
is it Shep
It's
who
a good
has the
time
book
for all.
or
yeah.
Sophia?
I gave him the book.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I thought it'd be best in his hands.
and I mean it's a nice leather bound journal with one of those strips of leather with a clasp that holds it shut. And one other thing, you did receive an invitation to the before party at
Hmm.
the Pinebox Grand Cinema. The movers and the
Oh, that's
shakers,
right.
perhaps some of the individuals that you've already, I don't want to say you met them, but you certainly saw them up on the stage as Jury of Robots was setting up their various speakers and sound system and stuff like that. You've seen some of these business owners and folks that are highly regarded as Pinebox business owners. You received a handful of invitations to this pre-party, this before party. I believe it was for the five of you and two guests, should you choose to bring two
Yes.
guests. Finger food, probably some nice little triangular sandwiches with the crusts cut off, and some cheeses.
Hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah, some wines, perhaps some little
Ooh,
Vienna sausages, and some nuts. Just a good way to mix and mingle and sort of rub elbows
yeah.
before the people that merely purchase tickets would have an opportunity to enter and either choose to sit on the lower tier or up in the balcony to really get that full cinematic experience. So I will mention that as well. And there you are. That is where we will begin. Enough of the exposition, which is valuable twofold because number one, I went through some of this stuff quickly, and we haven't had a chance to review the videos. Well, I have, but the players have not. But also, uh,
Our memories combined do the trick.
it makes sense. It makes sense. These are things that, although it's been 2 weeks or 3 weeks since we've played, it's really been the matter of minutes to hours since your characters have experienced some of these occurrences. So, in fairness to the players, I'm always happy to provide a name or a, yeah, you remember this individual, this happened when this was going on. And it sort of lets you lace some of these timelines together. Um,
And
I'd be remiss
Shep
to,
is right there. He
yeah,
had another vision that was
yes,
like set in the 70s. And I remember I wrote this down somewhere.
I know I wrote it down too, and I can't find it.
right. It was one of your
I have it.
premonitions,
Yeah.
one of your psychic
He
premonitions that very nicely dovetailed. The end of this premonition dovetailed with the beginning of another one that you had some number of weeks ago.
he
Hmm.
had a vision of let me see, I found it. Shep had a vision that he went up some stairs and turned into a room with a young woman inside wearing a mod style dress,
Mm-hmm.
and it smelled like there was kind of like mouse poop and pee inside of there.
Mm-hmm.
There were records and such inside the room that indicated the time frame is in the 70s. So it was in some place, which I think usually it correlates to some place within the school grounds, but I was not sure if this place was to be that, because if it's got something to do with like music and stuff, and if it's in the school grounds, maybe it could be in the art area, but I don't know.
Certainly
I'm
could
not
No
be.
wonder
sure if
Shep was giving Sophia the eye, like, what you people doing?
What are you doing in the 70s in the art section?
Yeah, the girl kind of had a the girl kind of had like a sort of a bouffant hairdo.
That
Ma-
big old.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like the kind of like the
Kind
gals
of
in
like a beehive.
Happy Days.
Hmm.
Oh,
Might have
yeah.
worn that sort of, or who was it?
Yes.
The B-52s. The two
That big
the
round.
two gals. Yeah, that big hair, tall hair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um, and
Gives
all
you like half a foot in height.
yes, it does. It does, as a matter of fact. And I'm also going to.
Okay, now I can see Ava in a beehive.
Oh,
Mm.
Lord. It's. She will be irregular height if she were to have a beehive. That's how my grandma used to do it. She's like, because she's the same height as Ava, and she's like, yeah, I used to do the beehive. Then I would be like 5'4".
Hmm. Hmm. Put a nice set of heels on, and yeah.
Yeah. She's like, I'm normal now. In the what was that the late 60s.
Very good.
Goodness gracious.
I'm just kind of like looking through. I've got this guy's photo up. I know he's an image. I thought I may have created an NPC for
Or the
him.
visions?
No, no. This is the that sort of handsome, very dark skinned, probably African.
Oh, you're talking about the doctor?
Yeah, the doctor. The what do I want to say?
The
The
doctor, his
continental
name
African.
was Kiweli Sembali.
Yeah, something like that. I'm trying to bring him
I'll
up.
find the
I'm
NPCs.
sure I have him in the images.
Yes,
Doctor
you do.
Kiwali Simba, and I will share him.
Because I remember coming into.
Yeah.
Yes!
Oh, I don't remember him.
This
I
gentleman,
remember this image.
Ava, you were accompanied, of course, by your two closest buds. You went to the library, and indeed, you probably had a book to return, an end of semester study book, a novel or something, or reference material or something like that. You talked to, I believe her name is Millie,
Yeah,
the little
the
lady
little
that you helped.
elderly Hispanic lady.
Yeah, you in fact helped her to get a job at the university. Um, she is one of the individuals responsible for replacing the various tomes and textbooks that students are cautioned. If you're going to take it down and look at it, leave it on a table. Don't try to put it back on the shelf because you're going to put it back in the wrong place. And that's going to make it hard for the poor next person, guy or gal, to find. So you talk to her, and she managed. She has access to the computer system. Probably not what you would consider administrative access, but certainly she had access to the East Texas University, uh, sort of the local patrols, the local security force did submit a report, and the three of you somehow, I don't want to say magically, but against the odds as you would consider them, you were not fingered as the individuals responsible for breaking that printer up on the third floor of the Robert E. Lee
Nope.
Engineering and Applied Sciences building. You were not. It was blamed or attributed to poor Stan Record, who also, much like the gal that jumped out of the second floor, Lilly Boatwright, was found and hauled away with his eyes wide. You could see whites all the way around him, his mouth open in a rictus grin, almost as if a scream had got caught in his throat. And he was still, almost like comatose, and almost like paralyzed in a manner where his arms were kind of still out a little bit and did not collapse to his side. Well, this individual, this Dr. Kawali Sisemba, signed off. Seems like he's an advocate for student health and welfare, and did sign off as it was a break from reality that poor Stan Record experienced due to just the stress of final exams and a feeling of being isolated and away from home, and did have an incident, an occurrence, and was not to be held accountable for the damages that the university would fund the replacement for that printer that was animated in some way and did attack you and managed to injure Ava at least, if not others. For some reason, no one did the forensics on the blood, on the pieces of broken glass, and on the floor, perhaps on the door handle or the door that led to the room where you hid out, and didn't match it to Stan and possibly matched it to one of you. But you know what? You used the healing skill. You did cover your arms, wrap them up, staunch the bleeding. Ava, you tend to wear a kind of a baggy, long-armed sweatshirt, probably given to you by someone, I don't know, probably chef's size, if I'm to guess. And those long arms covered most of that injury. And I think it was Erica, or perhaps it was one of the EMTs that did pluck those. There were two very long shards of glass in your forearm.
Yeah, she was pretty badly. Her leg was really badly jacked up during that time frame.
Yeah.
Because we also took, no, but
it rammed your knee.
This doctor, yeah, her leg, her knee. She was riding around on that chair.
Clever.
It was bad.
It was worth pennies. It was worth pennies.
It was bad. This doctor guy, he signed off on a bunch of this stuff, and we were like, huh, what? That's kind of weird. And I think we were trying to figure out who he was, or I think that was what our goal was to figure out who he was, because there was a big mess that was left over there.
Right.
And
right. That mess was local.
We weren't put to like they didn't pin anything on us, but we were most definitely there.
Yeah.
And
so like, I don't care.
Yeah, it was like really weird.
The damage was localized to the room where the printer was found. It had trapped Stan Record in the corner of a room. It's the part that you would raise with the glass to do like a photocopy. Was chomping at him alligator-like and ramming. It was on this sturdy metal cart, this frame of a cart on caster wheels, and it was ramming the table that he was sort of had angled up in the corner of that room trying to get to him. So there was a lot of damage to that room. A lot of, shall we say, water was sprayed, blood was spilt, glass was broken, and everything was just a mess, right?
It was a really big mess up there.
There were some sheets, some reams of paper had been pulled off and cast, pell-mell through the room.
Yeah, and then that's when we went down to the other floor, and that's when we found Lilly Boatwright and all that mess.
Yes.
And we handled that situation.
Aside from some sudsy water on the floor,
after
that damage would have been mostly the two sort of conical towers that formed a Tesla type device that you did manage to disable
and destroy.
You sprayed holy water on its insides. You zapped it with bouillabaisse, steaming bouillabaisse soup, which caused it to sparkle and effectively just
did a whole
dismantled it as best we could.
But aside from some
like this evil is not coming back.
Some sudsy areas.
Face. Sophia went out there and did some stuff.
Yeah.
And I locked the girl in the kitchen area.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on that day.
She had no way out other than the windows, sadly. And
because
the windows.
Sophia had locked the door on the other side. I rolled my way out.
You
and
locked
I
it.
The door
you
with
rolled
the
it.
knot.
Corded it up pretty good.
Because I took the cord with me from the third floor, and I was like, nope, don't
Chef
want to deal with this.
Punch somebody out.
He sure did. That's all I
and
remember.
we were all under a protection spell.
You were all
That's all I
sparkly.
remember. Shep punched a boy out.
I think he also got
Like he,
he got sprayed in the eyes with soapy
he
water,
straight up just
and
savage.
he was simply not happy.
Oh man.
He couldn't get his
Now
eyes clean.
we are we all technically back home,
Yes,
or like
yes,
in
yes. You would have been
our
home.
our
Yeah,
shared house?
you are. You probably have the envelope with the invitations to the pre-event at the
That's
cinema.
right, to the cinema. Are we going to the cinema to go hang out? Is that by chance the same cinema that Lenny got tickets for?
Yes,
Yes,
I believe so.
Ooh.
it's exactly.
I
It's
think we
exactly.
have to go. We have to
Wizard
make
of
sure
Oz.
Sophia remembers that she
Huh?
has a date.
Wait, no, I do remember this time. I remember.
She remembers this time.
Yeah.
We just have to make sure you don't lose your way over there.
Why would I lose my way? I don't.
You get easily distracted.
Only sometimes. It's not that bad. What are you?
I mean, at least it's not always by trees now, but still.
No, she got over that.
I've had a
All right.
lot of therapy.
There's a lot of therapy for trees.
Oh, and
That is
even though I cringe at it, Dean, you have to draw a card.
I was just doing
What?
that. I just opened up. As a matter of fact, I just opened up to page 15, and I was going to say, Shep, why do you think I'm on page 15? Because happily, you no longer have the lucky 7 reward for passing
Oh
midterms or finals.
boy.
In fact, sadly, I believe you failed
But
your
the
final
poor boy
exam.
needs to pass his finals.
But let's draw a card. Let's roll the dice and move your mice. I
Ooh,
played a.
memory loss.
What?
Oh my
Oh,
goodness,
no.
we have not had that one
You
yet.
had that one.
Two
Oh
of
That is true.
diamonds.
-1 on all smarts and smarts linked skill rolls.
Oh,
wow.
Who's
oh,
forgetful now?
yes,
Ha
absolutely.
Dang.
Oh,
Dang.
At least I didn't forget that I forgot.
mm.
I forget that I forgot.
And you're like,
Oh my goodness
Oh
maybe,
gracious.
maybe you were already
I can have
suffering.
some fun.
Maybe you were already sort of suffering from the effects of this when you were in there trying to take that exam.
Mhm.
You still had a bit of intestinal distress from some rather bad chili that was left in the refrigerator, um, and that was causing
Poor Shep. You've
embarrassing.
been having a
You
bad
you
time.
had the shakes, you had the chills, you could smell it leaching out through your pores and other orifices, shall we say, um, both liquid waste and, shall we say, gaseous emanations did make it an uncomfortable several hours to a day. But you're wondering, yeah, you know what? Maybe you were suffering from the curse of memory loss. That might explain why some of this stuff on your biochemical exam, some of these equations, it was like the first time you'd ever seen them. You're like, what the heck? I, I I've never seen this before. I don't know what this term means. You had that sinking feeling. So yes, you are at your apartment that you share with Mira and Erica. I imagine Erica is going to be riding the rodeo circuit over her time off, catching up with friends and the camaraderie of the rodeo. The performers, the cowboys, the cowgirls, the clowns, the acrobats, uh, and just the folks that I don't know if you would call them roadies, but the folks that are responsible for making sure that the events run smoothly, that everybody gets a good show. Nobody's overmatched with a steer that's way out of their league.
The rodeo queen has come back home.
Yeah, so she'll be out riding. She's probably getting set to go. So right after her last stint at the hospital, maybe after going and watching that movie. Um, yeah, I used to love watching that movie with my mammy and pappy. She says, She especially likes the part where it goes from black and white to color. Never stop to astonish and amaze her. Mir's there. Rocco's there. Both of them looking pretty fit. And yeah, you're at your apartment. What'd you like to do?
At the party.
You're at your apartment. We have probably 2 days until that event at the cinema.
Ooh. Well, while we're home, maybe it would be a good time to let's see. What oddities have happened to us? Besides the weird magical mishap of the D&D party, we've had
Cereal.
your vision, cereal.
You've been
We've
assaulted
had
by
the
Lucky
D&D
Charms.
stuff. Yes, no one will ever let me forget.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And Erica had something happen. I can't remember exactly what it was, but something had disappeared.
Oh no, one of you
Oh,
clowns, one of you rodeo clowns
horse.
decided to flip all my horseshoes upside down, made all the good luck run out.
No, it was not me.
Thought y'all clever. I had 'em tacked into the wall, and like pulled the nail out, flipped them upside down, and slid that nail back in place, made all my luck run out. I still haven't figured out
Shep
which one of y'all did that.
Shep just looks at her and then tries to make a muscle with his arm and looks at it and goes, "Wasn't me."
I can't reach half the things in this house.
Messed with my homework. That's right. I almost forgot.
Oh my god.
Find out which one of you clowns did that. It's going to be hell to pay, y'all. I'm telling you right now.
What do you mean?
Don't mess with a cowgirl's
Look,
horseshoes.
there are weird things that happen everywhere around this place. What happened? Wait, with the thing with the flags and now your horseshoes?
Did you stop feeding Rocco his extra treats?
Blaming
Yeah,
the dog?
no, I mean yes.
Let's see. Well, those
Rocco
weird
Rocco
shenanigans
has
here.
lost Rocco has lost 6 pounds. The vet is happy. Says Mir. Rocco was getting a little thick. We don't talk about that, but he was getting a little thick.
He's just getting
Well,
a little
No.
thick.
Shep just looks around and goes, "I only know of one person who's tall enough to deal with her horseshoes. Have you had your boyfriend over, Sophia?"
Yeah.
He is not my boyfriend. Not really. Not yet.
Not really.
What's
He's
his
a
name?
friend.
Lester? Larry? Lenny?
Lenny?
Larry.
Lawrence?
Lenny.
Lenny.
Well, he's a tall drink of water, but hell, Ava, even you could get your little elf self up a step ladder.
Excuse. No, thank you.
I mean, them air,
I'm okay.
them air
I'm
horseshoes,
okay.
they weren't up at ceiling height. They were just, painting like
No.
eyeball level. I'm going to find out who
I
did it.
don't mess with people's stuff. That's not what I do.
Hmm. And then you flash back to when Erica snuck up behind one of you and said they're magically delicious, and basically made you whatever you were holding, a sheaf of papers, just flew out of your notebook as she and Mir were
They
trying
are not
all day,
magically delicious.
to pull that shenanigan on you.
Oh my gosh.
But what else? There was that vision of the strange, gaunt, desiccated, undead-looking man fighting you in a 20 by
Ugh.
30 storage locker.
Oh,
Something like that.
that was a while ago when we still had a
That
handle
had
with
the
us.
that was a maybe vision. And certain
It's like
parts of that vision have changed,
That's true.
considering the
Ahuva.
brunette with the ponytail
Ahuva,
is no
yes.
longer around.
Yes,
that's unfortunate.
she met her demise
No,
at the claw of the risen revenant of Osiris. in the Frank
It wasn't
Mance
me.
basement.
It wasn't me. I
Yeah.
think that it might be worth, because the woman that was in the Heimglimmer house, the same pictures of her, do they also match up with the picture that we have of the group of students with the names on them, and we
No.
have one missing?
No.
No? Okay. So this woman is the same woman as just the one from the Renaissance fair that we saw.
Yes.
She looked like her.
Jennifer Chapman.
Yeah.
Even though she's a bit middle aged, she still has sort of a striking charisma about herself. She strikes quite an elegant silhouette as she stands on stage. Raven tresses. Uh, you saw her in an excursion to Cairo, Egypt, with Frank Mance, dressed in like those
Yeah.
khaki shorts and the big excursion wide-billed khaki hat that you would wear. Probably she had a scarf that attaches across it that you can sort of protect your face should a sandstorm pick up. That's probably the earliest picture, back in the 40s maybe, and there are others from like the 60s and the 70s. Again, political events on the front steps of the courthouse in Austin, Texas.
I bet that she's looking a little older because we messed around with some of the magic in the household.
Yeah, some streaks of gray, not quite Cruella de Vil contrast, but black hair with definitely some gray and a little bit more haggard, a little her countenance a little more wrinkled than the photographs and paintings. I mean, the paintings might suggest, but you can paint anything. But
Yeah.
the photographs,
I don't know.
generally made her appear 20 to 30 years younger.
Maybe we should spend this time looking in that book.
Hmm.
What do you think, guys? I'm kind of scared to look in that book, but we have the book.
Yeah. She is not one of the Pinebox protectors. The ones that you have identified in that picture would be Crayton White, who penned the very tome that you hold in your hands right now. The young woman, Nina Castle, who was the ghost that had haunted the roost, that pillbox-shaped old cinder block building that was attempted to set aflame using rituals very early, first week of your freshman year.
Yeah, that's a throwback.
And also, Judith the picture seems to match the girl with the bouffant hair that Shep's vision indicates that you freed from a sort of an enchanted circle of chalk and metal flakes and candles. In the vision, it appeared that she had been there for quite a long time and was surprised and almost disbelief that someone finally came to rescue her, to set her free, to break just the tiniest segment of that arc so that she could collapse into between the two of you to help her remain standing as she had been sitting or crouching.
So what do you think, guys? Study the book.
Oh, let's study the book. It's a book. What harm could that do?
It's my specialty.
Let us research.
I will research the Creighton ritual book alongside my friends.
You want to use the research skill? Seems reasonable.
I will use research.
There are others, but if you want to use research, I think that is a marvelous, marvelous idea.
I got a 4.
Why does it say B6?
Oh.
I guess you have a 6-sided.
Helping out.
Yeah, it's
trying to.
I guess B6. B6 means base 6 was rolled, and a 4
I have
was rolled.
My research skill is a D8.
Same.
I'll try to notice
Okay.
things
I think
in the book.
I think what has happened is your wild die is a 6, and in both of your cases, Ava and
Oh,
Sophia,
yeah.
I think your wild die, even though it's the next size down, managed to beat whatever D8s that you rolled. These rolls don't need to stand. You can burn a Benny if you would like, and endeavor to try to raise them. I mean, a 4 is a success.
I am down for that. I'll give it a try.
Yeah, I'll burn one of my bennies on mine too.
All right, wait a minute. Let me one moment there, Shep. Just one
Okay.
moment. Why do you have a -1 on your notice?
Because
Did you
it is a smart
smart
Oh,
space?
roll.
curse.
Okay. Did you type that little -1 in the little parchment area?
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
I just want to make sure we didn't forget. And I was like,
Come on,
oh,
that's
it's like
-1.
I was thinking to myself, is there another -1? Immediately, what I thought was, oh, we've got an outstanding injury from a previous game that I would need to
Oh,
null out.
No, I was being good.
I got a 5 this time.
It's a
8.
+1 now because of my Elan.
That is a
Oh, I
wonderful.
canceled it out. That's right.
That's a wonderful edge. Give you a net +1.
Worship his curses.
Shep, there's some
How?
there's a ritual in this
Hmm.
book. This ritual appears very much like the protection ritual that you have cast. That sort of armor ritual. It looks like it
Right.
is a powered down version of that, but it looks like it's easier to affect more targets.
Interesting.
Ava with a 5. In Savage Worlds, 4 is your target number for a success. So this 4, this 5, and this 6 that the players rolled are all successes.
What fun stuff did I find out?
Ava, you found a ritual called Friar Esperanza's Clever Tongue.
Ooh.
It looks like a variant of the Speak Languages ritual.
Uh, rituals. Huh,
And I'll put these
a new ritual
I'll put
force.
these into chat or whatnot. And a 6. Shep, you found a ritual that seems to be a variant of the detect slash conceal arcana. This is a specialized version of this ritual that will permit one to view the ley lines, which are in the sky, between 100 and 300 feet up in the air.
Look, guys, this lets you view the magic line. Dang, I forget what it's called, but the where the magic meets up in the sky.
And
It's
you
really cool.
know,
Oh.
just one of these
Magic
lines
in
in
the sky.
itself is a conduit of power. If there's a crossing of 2 of these, then that is a special area where, say, you would get bonuses to casting. You get an area where 3 of these cross or more, then these are singularities. These are very, very powerful areas. Shep, everything fades around you as you feel yourself in the middle of one of those just odd precognitive flashes. You are indeed on the top of what appeared to be a crenellated battlement. like the top of a rook piece in chess. There is a bell tower nearby. You know you're high because as you look around over these crenellations, you see what appears to be the buildings of the East Texas University campus. You only do glance for a moment or two because your attention is immediately drawn to two individuals that you don't know and several that you do. You're there, Ava there, Sophia is there. There is a girl, student age, pretty, bent over what appears to be the contorted form of a young male student. Guy has sort of like long, shaggy, dark hair. And he is laying on his back. She is leaning over him, crouched down on one knee, sobbing and shaking him in a way. You view these two individuals. You view the buildings of the campus about you. And you also look up and do see three of these ley lines in the sky that have crossed directly above this clock tower. This boy is a wreck. This he should be dead because you're looking at the strange angle of some of his akimbo limbs. His neck is also bent at an unnatural angle. There are abrasions covering the right side of his face, as if the flesh has been scraped away, revealing just a bit of the gristle and sinew underneath that epidermal layer. She is sobbing, and you understand him saying oh, something like, "So much pain. Please release me from the pain. I can't stand it." And then you're back with your friends.
Look at this ritual I found, guys.
It's pretty cool stuff. This book is chock full of little rituals.
It's a comprehend
What?
languages one.
Yeah, not to be metagamey, but there are 6 rituals in this
So
book.
I found one that's like comprehend languages.
Mhm.
Ooh.
And there's that tea ritual.
Okay, cool. Uh, since we never know when Shep has visions, so we're out of the loop.
Yeah, yeah. And they don't take much time. They don't take much time either.
And so business as usual. Look what I found in the book, guys.
Yeah. You will probably notice that Shep has he's gone from leaning over the book to basically leaning back in the chair. Is I would say he
No.
because he's usually kind of um, not graceful afterwards. He's kind of out of it a little bit. So
Oh.
you
Yeah,
might see his eyes kind of fluttering, like they're rolling up in the back of his head as he comes
Oh
out of
dear.
it.
Oh no. Let us go and I
Because I
will
would say
go
he
and
has some telltale signs.
That's not great.
okay. We'll go over there and check up on him. Be like, oh, hey, 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 are you okay? Hey.
he's a little
Bell
wobbly.
tower.
Little wobbly.
Ooh. Oh, you saw something? Oh dear.